The year was 1882. The beginning of the pioneer era was in sight, and the Industrial Revolution had not long come to an end. This new, ever-changing world of automobiles, electricity and steam trains was truly something to marvel at, and for one man, observation was not enough. Etienne Mouret was a French physiologist who found himself developing a passion for the study of movement throughout his career. Originally inspired to use a camera for his studies by photography pioneer Edward Muybridge, Mouret quickly discovered he could study his subjects by seizing the vehicle that waits for no man: time. Mouret's passion soon manifested into what some would call an addiction, and taking a single image no longer satisfied his appetite for studying movement. With that, Mouret invented what some considered to be the very first film camera, the chronophotographic gun. Shaped like an air rifle, the chronophotographic gun enabled the wielder to take a series of 12 separate images, but unfortunately did not have the capability of playing back the images as a motion picture. Although Mouret's invention had its limitations, it should still be paid homage. This invention, fueled by Mouret's love of studying movement, was the precursor to what is now a multi-billion-dollar film industry. Just 6 years after Mouret's experimentation with movement, another inventor had laid down the next stepping stone for the path of motion picture. This inventor was Louis Le Prince, and he was responsible for the very first single-lens camera, a groundbreaking discovery with short-lived success. In 1890, Le Prince mysteriously vanished, leaving behind his invention and a grieving widow who saw no other explanation to her husband's disappearance than murder. It would come to light a staggering 118 years later in a 2008 report that Le Prince's wife's suspicions were true, and the man who ordered the assassination of Le Prince was none other than inventor Thomas Edison. He'd made an impulsive decision driven by the fear of not being credited for such an innovative piece of technology. Despite his ruthless endeavours, Edison was one of the most influential pioneers of the film industry. After discovering Le Prince's invention, Edison wanted to be the one that reaped the benefits of the film camera. With that, him and his associate William Dixon got to work, and by 1892, they had successfully built and patented the kinetoscope, a 35mm film camera capable of playing back the footage it filmed. People from all over the globe travelled to witness this ingenious invention. However, it did come with its drawbacks. Unfortunately, the footage filmed on the kinetoscope could only be viewed through a small peephole by one person at a time. As you can imagine, the novelty of viewing a silent film through a small hole soon wore off, and watching one of Edison's productions eventually became a hindrance rather than a leisure activity. The idea of projection was talked about by Dixon, but Edison was somewhat short-sighted for the future of film, and this very suggestion would be the downfall of the two inventors' relationship. Regardless of Edison not being keen on the idea of projection, it was still manifested into reality. Auguste and Louis Lumière, better known as the Lumière brothers, quickly became passionate about cameras and film, growing up immersed in their father's work. Their father, award-winning portrait painter turned photographer Antoine Lumière, had moved to the city of Lyon in 1870, where he set up a small photographic plate business. Little did he know, this business would be the start of his son's venture into the world of motion picture. At the age of 17, Louis Lumière began studying his father's work with photographic plates, and after some experimentation, Louis had invented a new type of dry plate technology dubbed the blue plate. Anton was so impressed with his son's invention, he opened up a factory to manufacture the blue plates in the outskirts of Lyon, and by the early 1890s, it was the largest photography factory in Europe. At this point, it was clear to the Lumière brothers that inventing was something they should pursue. Time passed, and passion for inventing grew between the Lumière brothers. As fate would have it, their father attended an exhibition for Edison's kinetoscope. He was truly blown away by this invention, but envisioned the motion pictures being displayed to a mass audience. With the idea fresh in his mind, he travelled home to Lyons and prompted his sons to get to work on what would be one of the most revolutionary inventions in the history of cinema. Just 1 year later, the Lumière brothers had invented a machine that could record and project film. They called it the Lumière cinématographe. This machine featured a roll of perforated 35mm film that passed through a shutter at 12 frames per second, and it was operated with a handle. The Lumière brothers' invention proved to outdo Edison's kinetoscope tenfold, producing a smoother, more fluid film and being much quieter to operate. As well as this, it was portable, which meant filming was no longer limited to the four walls of a studio. The Lumière brothers felt their invention should be shared with the rest of the world, and on December 28, 1895, they hosted the world's first publicly projected motion picture titled La Sortie des ouvriers de l'usine Lumière, which translates to workers leaving the Lumière factory. Although the concept may not seem like much compared to the multi-million-dollar budget productions we're used to today, it was a huge leap for the future of cinema, and would be difficult to envision filmmakers today without the pioneers mentioned in this documentary.